Hello, I am Dale Husband, the Honorable Skeptic, and today I want to talk about an issue that has greatly disturbed me. I have been corresponding with Helena, the community manager for Plotagon, regarding plans for an interview. Among other things she has mentioned to me, she said Plotagon could
inspire bad actors to use Plotagon as a recruitment tool for very bad things, as Plotagon is available across the globe including places mentioned in the news for very bad things.
But that's a risk of any communication tool, including everything on the internet itself, of course. But then I find out something absolutely revolting. Kieran Fleming alerted me to this sick individual known as Mr. Plot, who has been making videos of virtual child porn, using Plotagon to do it. What the hell? Links to his video, and to another and longer video about the same topic, are below. And here are screenshots of Mr. Plot's YouTube channel. This person clearly has a perverted obsession with Caillou that makes him unfit to be using Plotagon and unfit to have a YouTube channel. His crap should be wiped out. It's harming the public image of Plotagon itself, obviously. Comedy after hours in the nature of false flag attacks. Hello. Dale Husband, the Honorable Skeptic here, and today I want to talk about the recent uproar in the Plotagon community regarding the betrayal of it by one of our own, known as Comedy After Hours. Last fall, one of our members, Kieran Fleming, was repeatedly called a racist by an unknown spammer using multiple accounts to do so. Later, this spammer also attacked me and several other Plotagonists, even attempting to disrupt premieres of other Plotagonists' works on YouTube. At the time, I thought it was obvious who the attacker was, because just a few weeks earlier, Kieran had made a video damning another Plotagonist known as Mr. Plot for making virtual child porn using character models of Caillou and Dora the Explorer created with Plotagon. So Mr. Plot was the prime suspect. Who else could have had motive to try to make Kieran and his friends miserable? But an investigation by another user known as Celebrities in Plotagon finally revealed the truth. The spammer was actually someone none of us, including me and Kieran, had ever suspected before. Comedy After Hours, who was so well respected that Plotagon itself featured one of his works last December. And he had also been invited to take part in this year's Plotagon Summer Festival. Kieran had also invited him to appear in a movie he was producing for later this year. And it seems he was nominated for at least one award in the Oscars. But now plans for all these things have been disrupted by this revelation of who the actual attacker was all along. So the question now is, why the hell would Comedy After Hours do all this shit? Well, I have an answer, based on a concept in modern warfare known as a false flag operation. According to Wikipedia, a false flag operation is an act committed with the intent of disguising the actual source of responsibility and pinning blame on another party. The term false flag originated in the 16th century as an expression meaning an intentional misrepresentation of someone's allegiance. The term was originally used to describe a ruse in naval warfare whereby a vessel flew the flag of a neutral or enemy country in order to hide its true identity. The tactic was initially used by pirates and privateers to deceive other ships into allowing them to move closer before attacking them. It later was deemed an acceptable practice during naval warfare according to international maritime laws, provided the attacking vessel displayed its true flag before commencing an attack. The term today extends to include countries that organize attacks on themselves and make the attacks appear to be by enemy nations or terrorists, thus giving the nation that was supposedly attacked a pretext for domestic repression or foreign military aggression, as well as to engender sympathy. Similarly, deceptive activities carried out during peacetime by individuals or non-governmental organizations have been called false flag operations, but the more common legal term is a frame-up, stitch-up, or set-up. An example of this was when Germany decided to attack Poland in 1939. To justify the attack, the Gestapo had concentration camp prisoners taken to an area just outside Poland, dressed in German military uniforms, and then killed at that location. Germany then claimed Poland had killed them in an attack and that Germany was responding to the attack. But the operation fooled no one else, and both the British and the French declared war on Germany that same year. My guess is that Comedy After Hours set up the attacks so that later he could appear to be heroic by helping to fight back against the same attacks he was causing. But he made the mistake of overplaying his hand repeatedly and for too long, and that resulted in a pattern that celebrities and Plotagon took notice of. For the record, I am perfectly willing to apologize to Mr. Plot for mistakenly accusing him of being the troll in question. But I had good reason to think he was to blame. This still doesn't excuse what he does with Plotagon. Caillou as a character is 4 years old and making him do all sorts of shit disgusts me to no end. In any case, it will take time for our community to recover. From the start, I could identify with Kieran because several years ago in Reddit, a community I belonged to there was also betrayed by a once respected member, and he launched a smear campaign against me because I rejected him and sided with the rest of the community against him once the truth about that troll was made obvious. That Reddit community recovered and moved on to better things. And so will we Plotagonists. Hello. Dale Husband here, and today I will be doing a brief interview with a fellow Plotagonist who recently was responsible for cracking a case involving a malicious troll that was attacking many of us in the Plotagon community. This friend is the creator of the Celebrities of Plotagon series, which has been running since 2021. The same year I started making the Debbie and Carrie show, and he is often referred to by the name of his show, but for this interview I will address him by his real name. Welcome, Hassan Johnson. Thank you for having me, Dale. Okay, I will keep this brief and to the point. How did you first hear about or encounter Comedy After Hours, and when did this happen? Well, I've heard his name around the Plotagon community for a while now. I've also seen his name in a lot of other Plotagonists content. He's clearly a well-known Plotagonist. A Plotagonist that meant a lot within the community. My situation happened on the 7th of February this year on Season 4 Episode 14 of my series, and happened previously on the 30th of November 2024 on Season 4 Episode 10. ComedyAfterHours would join the live chat, and boom, the spammers appear. Did you ever consider Comedy After Hours to be a friend of yours? Kind of. We weren't close, but we definitely did get along. He loved how confident I was when confronting the spammers, which turned out to be himself. So technically, we weren't friends, but we got along. Which is consistent with my conclusion that he was what I call a false flag attacker, stirring up shit and then trying to help the community fight back at the attackers. From what you saw of his works, what was your impression of Comedy After Hours as a Plotagonist? I'll be 100% honest, I've never seen any of his works. But from what I've heard, he's very talented, and his works were amazing. He included me on one of his videos, but I never got time to watch it. I only saw one of his videos, the Christmas Missing movie he worked on with Inspirero. What an amazing work it was indeed. Which makes that it all went to waste once comedy was exposed, even more maddening. Damn him. Anyway, moving on. Were you always suspicious of Comedy After Hours behavior? To be honest, I wouldn't say suspicious. I was aware that the spammers were mainly after him and Kieran the Plotagonist. But I never suspected that the spammers were himself. Until I calculated that it was him. I never suspected him either. I was so certain the attacker was indeed a different Plotagonist. You ended up doing what I should have done because my ignorance allowed comedy to do his stunts longer. One more question and then I will shut up about it for good. What sort of punishment do you think Comedy After Hours should get for what he has done? I personally think he should stay hiding and not come out again. But if he ever decides to come out, I believe that he shouldn't be allowed to participate in any Plotagon events again. And for all Plotagonists including Helena to block him. I'd like to see him get jail time myself. But anyway, thank you for your amazing works and for your support of everyone else in the Plotagon community. Goodbye, Hassan. Hey, Dale. I just heard that Donald Trump has resigned from the presidency and is going to his little hidey hole in Florida. Oh, really? And what prompted that, I wonder? A narcissist like him wouldn't give up power so easily. You're right. I was joking. April Fool. What? Dale, what has gotten into you? I could ask you the same question. This is not April Fool's Day? That was nearly a month ago. And even if it was, I would never appreciate April Fool's jokes. To me, that is a form of dishonesty. I guess you don't have much of a sense of humor. There is nothing funny about deliberately lying to anyone for a joke. Not even for 1 minute. I always want people to trust me, so I always tell them the truth. You may not always like what I say, but that's because I sugarcoat nothing I talk about. Even the honorable skeptic persona I invented in 2005 is a manifestation of my real self. There is nothing fake about it. I find someone is being fake to me, I will deal with it as a matter of ethical principle. Keep that in mind. A critical analysis of the Plotagon Summer Festival of 2025. Part 1. Intro and History. Hello, I am Dale Husband, the honorable skeptic. And today I want to talk about the Plotagon Summer Festival of 2025, how it nearly became a disaster, and why I will not take part in any future version of it, assuming one even happens. But first, let me give some background. The Plotagon Summer Festival began in 2023 as a 2.5-hour event contained in a single video. The apparent success of this event made its creator push for a more ambitious project in 2024, including several other Plotagonists, including myself, celebrities in Plotagon, The Brian, Sawyer Eek, The Plotagonists, Burko TV, Arter.Plotagon, JDL, Bradianimate, Classic Caillou, and Insferero. And just like the first event, the second one of 2024 was a massive success. It was much longer, and was divided into several parts that premiered all day on June 10th. Shortly afterwards, the creator of the Plotagon Summer Festival was interviewed by Helena, Plotagon's community manager. It was then that we learned his name was David and saw what he looked like. And about 4 minutes and 45 seconds in, David said, "To be honest, every Plotagon video I do has something to do with the Plotagon Summer Festival. Literally every single video. I don't use Plotagon for something different. I'll get back to this point later because of what I will reveal shortly. Anyway, at the time, many of us in the Plotagon community, including myself, heaped praise on David for his leadership of the project. And we were all looking forward to next year's event. And then something began to happen that was disturbing to many of us. Part 2, Attack of the Mysterious Spammer. So in September of 2024, I was alerted by another Plotagonist, Kieran Fleming, to what a third Plotagonist, Mr. Plot, was doing. Using Plotagon to make de facto child porn. I've already talked about this at length, so if you want, check the video I made about this topic. Soon afterwards, a mysterious person or people began using multiple accounts on YouTube to attack Kieran, calling him a racist for no logical reason. This went on for a while and I assumed Mr. Plot was the spammer in question. The spammer also began attacking me and others associated with Kieran. But a later investigation by yet another Plotagonist, known as Celebrities in Plotagon, exposed the real troll. It was actually someone known as ComedyAfterHours. After Comedy was exposed, he deleted his YouTube channel and has never been heard from since. For this effort, Celebrities in Plotagon was hailed by many, including me, as a hero. But the downfall of ComedyAfterHours came with a price for all of us. Comedy had collaborated with Insferero on a movie called Christmas Missing, but it was unfinished and was lost. Also, Comedy had been invited to take part in the Plotagon Summer Festival of 2025, but now that had to be withdrawn. But we were all determined to move on and make up for the loss we suffered. Part 3. The Brian quits the Plotagon Summer Festival team. Now, for the record, I was not eager to create and publish this video. And I am well aware that what I reveal may get a lot of hate thrown at me for doing it, but to me, this is simply a matter of telling the truth as I understand it, and being the bearer of bad news shouldn't itself cause me to be scorned. But I feel like I have to reveal to the rest of you why the Brian suddenly quit the Plotagon Summer Festival team and ended his friendship with David after collaborating with him for so long. Here's the story. So in April of this year, the Brian posted this on his Instagram account, and right before that, he left the chat group an Instagram made to help members of the festival team and participants coordinate their efforts. I asked the Brian what had happened. At first, he wouldn't talk about the matter. But soon after that, I got messages from David about what happened. Because Brian had blocked David, and so a third person was now needed to talk between them. Of course, I thought what David did to Brian was extremely stupid and immature, especially so soon after the uproar over Comedy After Hours. But it was what David said to me later, when I called him out on his dishonorable behavior, that really upset me. That was not the attitude of an ethical person who realized he did wrong and wanted to make things right. A joke is supposed to be funny to everyone involved. Punching down on someone else with it is indeed verbal abuse. It was at this point that any trust or respect I might have had for David evaporated, replaced by resentment. So now, I faced a dilemma. To collaborate with someone, I must have faith in their integrity, and David had just shown me he couldn't be trusted. On the other hand, I had given my word that I would take part in this year's festival, and I knew that my withdrawing from it now would only disrupt things further and hurt others that were eagerly looking forward to the event. So after consulting with Brian, he and I agreed that we would bide our time and let the festival proceed as planned. But I also promised him that sooner or later, I would expose what had happened as a matter of principle. I was concerned that if David was willing to backstab Brian, he might also hurt others. And now, here's an evidence board. Everything on that evidence board is the result of conversations I had with Brian over several weeks. Now I am not going to tell anyone what to believe or disbelieve. What I intend to do for the rest of this video is explore all the evidence for and against what I call the two-faced hypothesis. The fact remains, David Smith is a liar. The matter is, did he lie only once and only to Brian, or has he been lying to everyone over several years, including Helena, Plotagon's community manager? So let us proceed with the investigation. Part 4. The case against the two-faced hypothesis. Point 1. Occam's razor. Occam's razor is a means of judging the validity of a case. Basically, the simplest explanation for an event is most likely to be true. So in this case, it is far simpler to assume that David was indeed telling Brian a stupid April Fool's joke. But of course, that doesn't justify what David did. Point 2. The personalities of the owners of Plotagon Summer Festival, also known as David Smith, and celebrities in Plotagon, also known as Hassan Johnson, are very different from each other. Usually when someone is using multiple accounts for the purpose of sock puppetry, the personalities of those accounts are quite similar. But the personalities of the two users in question differ in many ways. Hassan is known for using a lot of profanity and talking with others. David does not. And the two seem to have different religious views. As I noted to David himself, it is clear that Hassan is not a Christian like David is. When celebrities in Plotagon was upset about not winning a Oscar this year, David was among those who tried to comfort and reassure him by quoting from the Bible. Not exactly the best thing to do if CIP was not Christian, but that might be expected from a super devout Christian like David seems to be. Also, the two address me very differently. CIP often refers to me as brother. David never did that. And you have already seen how David seems to despise my hardcore liberal and skeptical views. However, Point 3. David went so far as to start a Christian ministry using Plotagon to create and upload at least one sermon on YouTube. Now, what you believe about religion, and how you want to promote your faith, is entirely your business. But professing a religion means you should live strictly according to its teachings. David's backstabbing of Brian, as noted earlier, is hypocrisy. It should be noted that David already wiped out his online ministry. Perhaps even he was starting to become self-aware. Point 4. Celebrities in Plotagon actually endorsed a video I made slamming Bible teachings. It's no secret that I am atheist, and have been for about 20 years. I once made a video titled Richard and Diana Talk About Judaism, which depicted the title characters, also atheists, pulling no punches in dealing with how they saw the story in the book of Exodus. That story is the very foundation of Judaism and also, by implication, of Christianity and Islam, because both of those religions also revere Moses as God's lawgiver. So imagine my surprise when someone showed up in the video's chat channel as it was being premiered. Obviously, no Christian would say anything like that. But an atheist would. Point 5. If David was controlling the accounts of both Plotagon Summer Festival and celebrities in Plotagon, then that means that Helena interviewed him twice. And he lied outright to her both times. A person who does that should be trusted by no one. But even I find that unlikely. Remember when I quoted directly from that interview David did with Helena? That is why what he told Brian about being celebrities in Plotagon was so serious. You simply cannot do that to anyone and keep their trust, ever. That's why Brian reacted so badly to David's claim. And David's response later was a form of backpedaling, denying an earlier assertion as a form of damage control. Even if David had been only joking, it was still a hurtful thing to do, period. The case for the two-faced hypothesis. Point 1. Neither celebrities in Plotagon nor Plotagon Summer Festival ever showed themselves at all until last year, when they were interviewed by Helena, as shown earlier. Indeed, as far as I could tell, no one ever knew their real names beyond the names of their accounts. And in the case of celebrities in Plotagon, it appears we still don't know his real name. More on that later. It is likely that had Helena not started her series of community conversations, we to this day wouldn't know anything about the true identities of the owners of CIP and PSF. Of course, people do have a right to their privacy, but not to the point of outright dishonesty. Point 2. David used his real voice when interviewed by Helena, but CIP spoke with an electronic voice in his interview. I think this point is obvious. Of course, there is nothing wrong with using an artificial voice. I normally do that myself, including in this very video. But I do that because I dislike my natural voice, but that doesn't mean I am trying to diss anyone. Point 3. David is indeed confirmed to use other accounts besides Plotagon Summer Festival, just as he confessed to Brian. Here is a clear example in YouTube. Note the date the channel was created. Way back in 2021. Point 4. Celebrities in Plotagon is supposed to be from Chicago, and therefore an American, but in a video he made in reference to the death of Queen Elizabeth II, he referred to her as our queen. She was not a queen of any American, only of her British and Commonwealth subjects. Oops! And who was that commenting on that video? Could this be another of David's accounts? This was made way back in 2016, however. Point 5. Plotacards, said to be yet another account of David, was first introduced to the rest of us by CIP. Point 6. Googling the name Hassan Johnson reveals that this is the name of an actual celebrity, an actor in the New York area, not Chicago. So it is likely that the owner of the Celebrities in Plotagon account stole the identity of this actor. This is the Wikipedia page of the real Hassan Johnson. And this is his Instagram account. Note his real-life appearance. And here is what the Plotagon avatar of Celebrities in Plotagon looks like. Coincidence? Ironic that he was exposing Comedy After Hours while using a stolen identity himself. Is your mind blown yet? Of course, it is possible that the real actor Hassan Johnson started the Celebrities in Plotagon series as a means of writing what you know. Much as I did in making the Debbie and Carrie show set mostly in my home state of Texas. But why didn't he identify himself as the actual actor in his interview with Helena? That would have been a perfect time to reveal himself and promote whatever acting jobs he might have been doing recently, but he did not. So we really don't know much about these people that we have been so involved with, do we? So let me tell you what will happen as a result of putting out this video. First, David, the creator of the Plotagon Summer Festival, is dead to me. I have already blocked his account on Instagram, and if he tries to contact me through any other account on any other platform, I will block those too. And obviously, I will not take part in any future version of the Plotagon Summer Festival, if by some miracle one is done. Personally, I think the one we did this year should be the last we ever do, because the integrity of that long-term project has been ruined forever. As I see it, David made 3 fundamental mistakes in running the festival this year. First, his telling Brian that bullshit claim of him and Celebrities in Plotagon being the same person. Second, his setting the festival on June 8th, which is not even a summer day. The actual summer solstice was on June 20th. By making the festival earlier, he made it difficult for younger Plotagonists to turn in their projects in a timely fashion, because they likely would have been focused on school projects in May. Their having to rush their works for the festival later might have resulted in poor editing and direction. Third, David didn't specify a deadline to turn in projects 2 or 3 weeks before the festival came out, and thus the PSF team had almost no time to assemble the projects. Then again, moving the Plotagon Summer Festival to June 20th might have made it harder for Plotagonists to make and submit projects for the Plotagon Film Festival later, which is a different event, and unlike the other festival, is actually run by the Plotagon company itself. Another good reason to end the Plotagon Summer Festival, in my opinion, And so that concludes my critical analysis of this year's Plotagon Summer Festival and of its creator, David. Shall we move on? Well, it has been an interesting month, hasn't it? It was about 1 month ago that I uploaded to YouTube a video exposing that David Smith, the creator of the Plotagon Summer Festival, was also the creator of the Celebrities in Plotagon series, but had been lying to everyone by claiming that he was indeed two different people. At first, I made that video unlisted, because I assumed that if David found out about it, he would retaliate with some kind of smear campaign against me. That sort of shit has happened before. When you are atheist, a hardcore progressive activist, and impoverished, people can slander you all over the place. Thankfully, David did not do that. Once he realized what I had done, and that he wasn't going to get away with his lies anymore, he surrendered and apologized. And then last week, Mr. Plot also apologized for all his shit, including using Plotagon to make de facto child porn using representations of Dora the Explorer and Caillou. And now today I discover that ComedyAfterHours has also apologized for all the stunts he pulled against Kieran Fleming, and Sferrero, myself, and others. I can't help but think that the apologies from the other two were sort of reactions to David Smith's initial apology on July 1st. So now, we have the Plotagon community need to have a serious discussion among ourselves about what sort of things we are willing to tolerate, what offenses we may be willing to forgive, and at what point should a Plotagonist be forever banned from any future interactions with others in the community. I can tell you all right now that if I was the Plotagon community manager, I've already shut down the Plotagon accounts of all three of the offenders mentioned earlier, and I would be imposing strict rules regarding borderline criminal acts of fraud, abuse, and obscenity. But what do the rest of you think? Let's have that conversation now and try to reach a consensus. If we can put an end to the toxic disruptions in the Plotagon community, then it will be safer for those who may join it later. Let it be so. Hello, Dale Husband here. This is an update on the situation with the difficulties within the Plotagon community. And if all goes well, this will be the last such update, and we can all move forward to continue making great plots and being good examples on how to get along. The past few weeks, I have been corresponding with Helena and Sferrero and others on seeking solutions to our problems, and I was also invited to join a chat group in Instagram on the same issue. So now, here is my conclusion. I have decided to accept the apologies given out by David Smith, Mr. Plot, and ComedyAfterHours. And Sferrero even spoke directly with David via video chat, and he reported to me that it was a complete success, at least in his opinion. I see no reason to question him about that. But that does not mean I will ever be friends with any of those three offenders in the future. I know who my true friends are, and I will always treasure them like gold and fight for them, just as I have done before. And something else I should mention. I have been told that certain others are claiming I am threatening to dox people that are offensive to me. That is a lie. When I exposed David Smith, that wasn't doxing, since I did not reveal his address or phone number to enable harassment of him in his personal space. Get your facts and your terminology straight before you end up slandering me via email or social media. I want myself and every other member of the Plotagon community to be respected as the human beings they are. Nothing more or less than that. If you are afraid of me because I am demanding that, that is a problem with you. And now, I also wish to report that my smartphone I'd been using for almost 2 years died last week when it was badly damaged. So I had to buy a new one the next day. After I got it, I downloaded both of the Plotagon apps for smartphones, Story and Studio, and found they only had the stock character models. All the custom-made models were gone, including those of Debbie and Carrie. So I will have to spend the next few weeks reconstructing those dozens of models using the ones still in Plotagon Studio for desktops as references. Ah, the curse of high technology. Anyway, that's all for today. Let's all look forward to the Plotagon Film Festival. I have 2 features that will appear in that, and I am looking forward to it being amazing. See some of you there. Hello once more. I will assume as the viewer of this video you saw the last one I made also. If not, a link to that one is below in the description. Anyway, in that previous video, I said I was ready to accept the apologies of 3 of the biggest offenders in the Plotagon community, and I only did that because Insferero convinced me it was possible for me to make peace with one of them. Well, look what the hell happened when I tried that. So suddenly I was thrust right back into the anguish I felt in April of this year, when the scandal of David being profoundly two-faced was made clear to me. Attacking me with multiple accounts on multiple platforms, check. Making blatantly false statements about me, check. Causing me to have an emotional breakdown, check. Yes. That is exactly what ComedyAfterHours did to Kieran Fleming last year. At least I knew who my attacker was this time, so there's that. And as Helena told me last year as well.
Yeah, sometimes the block feature is the best way to handle those who are trying to start drama.
So I proceeded to block David. 5 times. It took me 2 days to recover fully from the trauma, and only then could I look critically at what exactly David had said to me. And I realized that everything he said was actually in reference to my expose of him in late June, not my last video at all. Now when David released his apology on July 1st, I refused to accept it at the time, because I did not believe he was sincere at all, but Kieran the Plotagonist did forgive him immediately, and they later learned that this was due to a history the two had together that I did not. The thing about narcissists is that they are perfectly happy to inflict pain on others, but resent any pain being inflicted right back at them. As I pointed out to David, I just did to him what he had done months earlier to ComedyAfterHours. At least Comedy backed away from everyone and allowed the community to recover from his shit, returning after 5 months to apologize. And there is no sign, at least yet, that he has done any more harm to us. David's insistence on staying with us, and even wanting to make future versions of the Plotagon Summer Festival strike me as the ultimate form of hubris. And maybe David thought Kieran's forgiveness of him on July 1st meant he could get away with abusing me later. Nope. Kieran responded to David's stunt by removing him permanently from the upcoming Kieran Fleming show, a sequel series to the Kieran Fleming movie he did earlier. That did feature David as celebrities in Plotagon, but I could tolerate that because I could see him as the actual actor Hassan Johnson, whose identity David had stolen. I actually assumed that Kieran would remove me instead from his show. So I am relieved to see Kieran is not a blind loyalist to anyone. Later, I asked to be returned to JDL's movie group in Instagram, because I knew the Celebrities in Plotagon account was still there, and I wanted to see if David was talking smack about me there. And instead, I saw this. As the old saying goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So as the rock band The Who would say, I won't be fooled again. I really should have trusted my instincts and never offered David anything at all. So now, this is the last time I will ever mention that asshole on my channel. He is now not only dead to me, but completely buried. That is all. Okay, I'm going to make some quick statements and then move on. First, I was just viciously attacked by another Plotagonist when I thought he was a good guy, but it seems he showed his true colors this week. I have always been one to take hypocrisy seriously. Now, I won't name this other person. His identity is irrelevant. Just know that what they did to me is completely inexcusable. If you have a dispute with me about anything, you can always come to me and request that we discuss the matter privately and I will listen. Even if we disagree, we can still respect each other. But stabbing me in the back, and doing it publicly, is despicable in any context. And yet you have the audacity to say I somehow did harm to the community, and that you can never trust or respect me again, that you will never forgive me. That's bullshit and you know it. You are the one who will have to beg for my forgiveness someday. You are the one who damaged me, not the other way around. Because of that treachery, I have given up on trying to improve the Plotagon community. Instead, I will take the Brian's advice and avoid dealing with anyone in the community I consider to be toxic. Long before all this crap started happening in the Plotagon community, I had trust issues as huge as Mount Everest. This situation has only made me even more distrustful than ever. But I know there are still good people in that community, just as there are in every community. I will continue to treasure them, because I know that shunning them all would only make things worse. I will continue working on the 5th season of Debbie and Carrie, The Next Generation, and the movie that will be a complete compilation of all those episodes of that season, Debbie Smith for President. Like the Brian said, I have to keep using Plotagon to spread my ideals, regardless of the toxic issues in the Plotagon community. I must not let the backstabbers win, period. That is all, and for now, I bid you peace. So last week I decided to indefinitely retire my Plotagon-made avatar. Yes, this very one you are viewing right now. And rebrand my primary YouTube channel from my real name and my Circle H logo to Debbie and Carrie Productions and a pic of those title characters. My intention was to stop making any statements about political and personal matters as myself and just focus totally on the fictional works I am best known for in the Plotagon community. And then I learned about something last night to make me totally reverse course. More on that later. Anyway, this past year has been a traumatic one for the Plotagon community. First, there was the matter of what ComedyAfterHours did, and then there was the even bigger matter of what David Smith did. I've already talked at length about both of them, so no need to repeat anything. If you know, you know. But now 2 more Plotagonists have totally disgraced themselves and I have decided to shun them just as I did the other 2. First, Aubrey Cox. She has actually been known to have a highly toxic fan base for years. But it was what she did recently that finally turned most others against her. Specifically, she, despite being in her 20s, was caught sexually harassing an underage boy. I don't care how old or young you are. Violating someone else's bodily autonomy, or even threatening to do so, should get you banned from any social media platform, including YouTube. And the other Plotagonist, who was actually busted last night, was none other than RachetDaCoolGuy, also known as RachetDaCoolGuy. Like the first 2, he was exposed for using multiple accounts on YouTube to diss and harass others. The one who busted him was actually Phoenix Studios. Henceforth, I will just call him Rachet. Anyway, Rachet was a nominee for this year's Ploscars, and as such was interviewed by Mac for the Ploscars per show. Rachet was also involved in the Plotagon Summer Festival of this year. In both cases, I appreciated his contributions. Now here is where he went wrong regarding me. Last December, I had sent the Plotagon company a short clip paying tribute to Spy vs. Spy. Plotagon then uploaded that clip to their own YouTube channel. Several months later, I noticed that Rachet had made his own version of a Spy vs. Spy episode, but it actually included blatant rip-offs of my work. After I viewed it, I called him out on the act of plagiarism and demanded that I receive writing credit for his video. And then he did add my name to his video's description. So I was satisfied with that outcome and moved on. But it does go to show how unethical he already was. I shouldn't have had to demand anything from him. He should have admitted he was copying from me right from the start. I myself made copies of several character models that were created years ago by Mary Bliss Peanut Cat 1977. who I miss so badly. But I always asked for her permission before doing it, and I always gave her credit for those designs. That's what being honest is all about. I just wish everyone else was as ethical. Is it really that hard to not be an asshole? Hello. Dale Husband here. This is the new version of my Plotagon made avatar. With my hair turning gray above the sideburns in real life, this looks more accurate now. And something else I want to quickly address. If I refuse to forgive someone who has badly hurt me and others, that's not continuing drama if there is no more contact between me and the offender. Stalking me, harassing me, and demanding my attention is continuing drama. If you had a child who was being stalked and harassed, would you tolerate such shit for 1 second? You can end drama by avoiding all contact with the one who hurt you. So I do. Well, I can't say I am surprised at all by the latest incident involving the Plotagon Summer Festival of this year, given the nature of its founder, as I have discussed before. Anyway, Phoenix Studios came to me last night and reported that David Smith had received the submissions she made for the festival, consisting of several episodes of a series that were meant to be placed in an exact order. Much like my own Debbie and Carrie content usually is. And David got the order of the episodes completely wrong in the upcoming videos for the Plotagon Summer Festival. And when Phoenix pointed out his mistake, instead of accepting the criticism and fixing it, as any respectful person would do, he said this. Imagine a movie director refusing to fix a mistake in his movie and using that he has a family as an excuse not to do it. No one would take that bullshit seriously. So now, Phoenix is thinking of quitting the Plotagon Summer Festival. And if she does, I have advised her to take her creations to the Plotagon Film Festival instead. Because I am sure Helena won't screw her over like David is doing. So my instincts from last year, refusing to take part in any future event run by David Smith, were right on. I hope David learns from this and doesn't ruin everything for himself and the others at the PSF later this month, but I am not holding my breath. Are any of you familiar with the sunk cost fallacy? The sunk cost fallacy is a cognitive bias where you continue a doomed endeavor, like a failing project, bad investment, or unfulfilling relationship, simply because you have already invested resources, time, money, or emotional energy into it, rather than basing your decision on future benefits. Loss aversion. Psychologists have found that the psychological pain of losing something feels twice as intense as the joy of gaining the equivalent thing. We hold on to avoid admitting the loss was real. We tend to associate walking away with failure. We trick ourselves into continuing to create a narrative that justifies our past choices, rather than framing cutting losses as a smart move. We don't want to be perceived as a quitter, so we make irrational choices to protect our pride. That's only wasting more time and resources, of course.